Chosen one. The delay was strategic. You'll understand soon. Delay was strategic. There's something powerful about timing. Not human timing, divine timing. You've been wrestling with the silence, the slowness, the confusion of delay. Doors didn't open when you knocked. Opportunities slipped away right when you were ready. Breakthroughs were promised, but never arrived. Yet. And in all that waiting, you began to wonder if something was wrong with you. Maybe you doubted your path, your purpose, or even your worth. But let it be said, loud and clear. The delay was not denial. The delay was strategic. Sometimes, the divine has to hold back what's meant for you, not because you're not good enough for it, but because it's not mature enough for you. The promise is real, the vision is true, but just like a harvest has its own season, so do you. This delay has not been punishment, it has been preparation. It was God's way of aligning every piece, every person, every path, so that nothing you receive will collapse under pressure. This is a message to encourage you to watch until the very end of this video and then type your warmest wishes and the number 99 in the comments to send your energy into the universe and open the gates for wishes to come true. For you and those who are walking this divine path too. Let the energy of alignment find you. Now look closely at the pattern of your life. You've been redirected, repositioned, and refined. What you thought were detours were actually disguises. They were shielding you from premature exposure to environments not built to handle your light. If you had received what you asked for when you first asked, it might have sabotaged your growth. Or worse, it might have shrunk you into a version of yourself that couldn't fully hold the blessing. That's why things had to stretch. That's why the waiting seemed endless. Because what's coming is not small. What's coming is calibrated to your greatness. And greatness, real greatness, doesn't arrive through shortcuts. It arrives through process, through strategy, through delay that builds depth. You see, strategic delay is heaven's way of testing the foundation before the structure is revealed. Your character had to be built before the reward could arrive. If the foundation was shallow, even a small storm would have shattered it all. So instead, life carved deeper into you. Not to wound, but to strengthen. You've had to lose some people. You've had to outgrow versions of yourself. You've had to rebuild your faith not on results, but on relationship with the divine. And that, chosen one, is rare. That is the kind of depth that can carry what others can't. This isn't a story of being overlooked. It's the story of being hidden until the appointed moment. And that moment is almost here. There were reasons why things didn't work the first time. Why they ghosted you. Why they didn't believe in your potential. Why you were passed over for the position, the opportunity, the love. It wasn't that you weren't ready. It's that the space wasn't ready to hold what you carry. You were not rejected. You were preserved. God needed the atmosphere to match your elevation. And He needed you to be strong enough to stand tall in the room that once tried to ignore your presence. And when you finally walk into the fullness of your calling, they will say, "How did it happen so fast?" But you will know the truth. It wasn't fast, it was delayed. Painfully, intentionally, divinely delayed. Because real strength grows in secret. Real purpose is not rushed. It is revealed when the world is finally ready to see what God has already known. So breathe, chosen one. Exhale the frustration. The delay didn't break you. It built you. It forged you into someone unstoppable, someone unshakable, someone undeniable. You may not understand all the pieces yet, but soon you will. The clarity is coming. The insight is on its way. And when it arrives, you'll see how every moment of waiting was wrapped in wisdom. Every setback had a sacred strategy. And when the door opens, and it will, you won't just walk through it. You'll be ready to reign. Now that you've begun to see the delay differently, not as a punishment, but as a plan, you can breathe differently. The air you breathe now isn't filled with tension, it's filled with revelation. The kind of revelation that transforms anxiety into anticipation. And this anticipation isn't empty hope, it's grounded in spiritual fact. Deep down, you've always known you were meant for more. But what you couldn't see until now is that the more had a precise time, and your spirit had to grow tall enough to reach it. You were never late. You were simply becoming. The world may measure progress by speed, but heaven measures it by stability. While others raced ahead, celebrated loudly, and showcased their seemingly rapid success, your journey took a quieter route. A route filled with hidden lessons, sacred pauses, and divine recalibration. You weren't behind. You were deepening. You were becoming the kind of soul that can handle massive blessings without being blinded by them. That's why everything had to happen slower for you. Not because you were weak, but because you were chosen to carry more weight, more wisdom, more wonder. And the truth is, some of your greatest growth happened in the rooms where nothing was happening. The silent seasons shaped you more than any applause ever could. It was in those silent stretches where you learned how to hear the voice of your higher calling, where you learned to distinguish between noise and guidance, where you learned to trust without seeing. That is the mark of a chosen one. Not the ease of the path, but the endurance through the delay. There's a reason why some people can't understand your journey. They haven't walked through the depth of waiting that you have. They haven't stood at the edge of the cliff, praying for a door to open, only to find the courage to build their own. But you did. You kept going when there was no map. You held on to light when everything felt dark. You kept believing even when belief was the only thing left. And because of that unwavering tenacity, you've unlocked a destiny that shortcuts could never reach. But let's be real. The delay didn't feel strategic when you were in it. It felt like chaos, like confusion, like abandonment. You questioned everything. You begged for answers that never came. You stood in rooms where the silence screamed louder than any rejection. And in those places, you were tempted to give up. You thought maybe this dream wasn't meant for you. Maybe this desire was a mistake. But something inside you wouldn't let go. Something deeper than logic, deeper than emotion, something sacred. That's because your soul remembered what your mind forgot. Destiny can't be erased, only delayed. And this delay, it's about to end. Every single no was a recalibration toward a greater yes. Every delay rerouted you to a higher altitude. Had you received everything when you first asked, you might have settled for something small, something safe, something beneath the blueprint of your soul. But now you've tasted the refining fire of patience. Now you know how to recognize what's real. Now you won't just take anything offered. You'll wait for what aligns, what's worthy, what's divine. And as you rise, remember this. What's coming isn't just about what you get. It's about what you've become. You've become the kind of person who doesn't crumble under pressure, who doesn't run when things get silent, who doesn't break when things delay. You've become unshakable. And that kind of spirit attracts doors that don't just open. They open wide and stay open. They tried to count you out. Time tried to make you doubt yourself. But every second you waited, you were actually stepping deeper into alignment. And when that moment arrives, and it will, It will feel like you've known it your whole life, because you have. Your soul has always been synced to something higher, and soon your reality will catch up to your spirit. You'll look back and thank the delay. You'll thank the closed doors. You'll thank the detours, because they led you here, to this version of yourself, to this exact season, to this new dimension of clarity and power. And when others ask how you did it, you'll smile and say, it was all part of the strategy. Now, the atmosphere is shifting. Something inside you has already begun to move. Even before the physical world confirms it, your inner world knows something is different. The heaviness you carried through the seasons of silence is beginning to lift. Not because the storm wasn't real, but because your spirit outgrew it. The weight that once felt unbearable now feels like fuel. What once held you down is now the foundation that holds you up. That's what divine delay does. It doesn't just make you wait, it makes you strong. It teaches you how to carry glory without breaking under it. It teaches you how to walk with dignity, even when nothing seems to be working in your favor. It makes you so deeply rooted that no external wind can uproot what's been built in the invisible realm. The world sees results, but the chosen see the reasons. You didn't just wait, you evolved. You grew a resilience that no fast track could have given you. You grew a knowing that can't be faked. Now, when you speak, there's power behind your words. Now, when you enter a room, your presence carries weight, not from status, but from soul. That is what the delay was cultivating. You didn't just survive it, you were sculpted by it. And let's be honest, had the delay not happened, you might have moved into rooms that weren't ready for your truth. You might have fallen for counterfeit opportunities, dressed in urgency. You might have aligned with people who looked right, but weren't right. The delay stripped all of that away. It exposed every illusion. It revealed who was for you and who was simply for the version of you they could benefit from. It exposed who stayed only when things were easy and who still believed when everything seemed still. There's a sacred clarity that comes from being delayed. You begin to see through people, through performances, through pretense, and you stop chasing validation because you finally realize you were never meant to fit into every room. You were designed to shift the atmosphere of the right one. That's why the delay hurt, because it had to unattach you from everything shallow so you could rise into something solid. You had to be stripped of false security so you could find something unshakable. The process was never about punishment. It was about precision. Every moment had a purpose. Every pause was a prophecy unfolding in silence. You were never being left behind. You were being launched, quietly, intentionally. And the ones who mocked your stillness, the ones who said, "You should be farther by now," they had no idea they were watching something divine in incubation. Because now, the launch sequence has started. You can feel it, can't you? The things that once felt stuck are beginning to loosen. The doors that wouldn't budge are showing cracks of light. The energy around you is no longer stale, it's electric. Why? Because the alignment has caught up with the anointing. The time that was delayed is about to be delivered. And not just any time, your time. You're not walking into the blessing by accident. You were architected for this. This moment was etched into the structure of time before you ever arrived on Earth. That's why it couldn't come early. That's why it had to hurt first. Because destiny doesn't rush. Destiny roots. Destiny refines. Destiny prepares. You are not the same person who began this journey. The you who once questioned your path has now become the path. The you who once looked for the light has now become the light for others still in the dark. That's not just transformation, that's transcendence. So when it all begins to unfold, and it will, don't be surprised by how massive it is. Don't be shocked when the blessings flood in so fast you barely remember the struggle. This is how the divine restores. Not with explanations, but with elevation. Not with answers, but with arrival. Because the delay wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something that couldn't be rushed. You've been asking, why hasn't it happened yet? But now, the real question is becoming. How did I become this ready for it? Because what the delay gave you is something time alone could never produce. Spiritual maturity. Not the kind you read in books or mimic from others, but the kind forged in the fire. The kind earned in silent rooms when you were holding on to nothing but faith. The kind built in the middle of midnight breakdowns when everything in you wanted to give up, but something sacred kept whispering, "Not yet. Hold on. You're almost there." And because you stayed when you could have run, because you waited with honor when bitterness tried to take root, because you kept your heart open when it made more sense to shut it down, you've proven that you can be trusted with what's next. Heaven watches how you handle the delay, not to punish, but to protect what's being prepared for you. It's not just about what you'll receive, it's about what you'll release once you arrive. That's why this was strategic. You're not just someone who will be blessed. You're someone who will carry the blessing into places no one expected. You'll carry peace into chaos, truth into confusion, light into dark systems. And that kind of calling needs time. Not just to build you, but to clear the way ahead of you. You don't even know how many battles were fought in the unseen just to clear this next path. How many betrayals were divinely exposed? How many false connections were cut? How many spiritual traps were disarmed before you could step into your next chapter? You only saw the delay, but heaven was orchestrating protection behind the scenes. You thought nothing was happening, but everything was happening. This is what makes the delay holy. Not because it felt good, but because it did good. It built you into someone that rushed seasons never could. And now, as the energy shifts and the next door begins to open, you're not entering with desperation. You're entering with discernment. You're not entering to prove yourself. You're entering because you finally know yourself. The delay taught you that. It refined your instincts. You now know the difference between what's real and what's hype. You've been through too much to fall for surface level anymore. You've developed sacred eyes. You'll no longer be seduced by urgency. You'll wait for alignment. And the people who once looked down on you during your stillness, they'll be the ones asking how you gained such depth, how you built so much influence without trying, how your presence speaks before your mouth even opens. They won't know it was the delay. They won't know it was the fire. They won't know it was the nights you cried and rose again anyway. But you'll know, and you won't need to explain it, because the delay will speak for itself. You won't have to prove your worth anymore. The fruit will do it for you. The doors that open will be so unmistakably divine that even your doubters will have to say, "That had to be God." The way things will align won't make logical sense, and that's the point. It's not supposed to. It's not logic. It's destiny. You are not just walking into a better season. You are stepping into a strategic reveal. Your soul is arriving where it always knew it was meant to be. And now, as you stand on the edge of this breakthrough, feel the shift in your bones. The delay is folding into divine acceleration. The time you thought was lost is returning with interest. The energy you thought was drained is refueling you with supernatural force. The people you thought you needed have been replaced by better, stronger, truer connections. And most of all, you are no longer waiting to become. You've already become. So let the door open. Let the world see what the delay has been protecting. Let the spotlight fall where the fire has already refined. You are not who you used to be. You are a product of strategy, not chance. A miracle in motion. And when the world tries to define you by your past pace, you'll redefine the meaning of patience itself. Because for the chosen, the delay was never wasted time. It was sacred time. It was strategic time. And now, it's time. Let's talk about the part no one wants to remember. The moments in the delay that didn't feel strategic. The nights where nothing felt sacred, just silent. The mornings you woke up with a heaviness you couldn't name, a weight in your chest that stayed even after a full night's sleep. You told yourself to be strong, to keep going, to believe in something unseen. But some days, it was hard to even breathe without asking, what's the point? This was the wilderness part of the delay, the part that made you question everything. The space where you weren't waiting in peace, you were waiting in pain. The loneliness wasn't poetic, it was paralyzing. The quiet didn't feel peaceful, it felt like punishment. You weren't just delayed, you were forgotten. Or so you thought. Because when you cried out, it felt like nothing came back. This is where the doubt grew the fastest. Not because you didn't want to believe, but because you used to believe so hard, and it didn't happen. You prayed with passion. You sowed with intention. You believed with all your heart. And yet, the doors stayed closed. The phone didn't ring. The support didn't show up. And that's the space that almost killed the vision inside of you. Almost. Because something deeper kept flickering. Even when your emotions shut down. Even when your logic screamed, it's over. Even when people walked away and said, maybe this just isn't for you. Something inside you didn't die. It dimmed, but it didn't die. That was your divine spark, the signal that you were chosen. And this is what many will never understand about your story, that while others were running ahead, you were breaking in secret. You were battling silent mental storms while showing a strong face. You were showing up for others while your own soul was bleeding. You weren't delayed just in your timing. You were delayed in your healing, delayed in your confidence, delayed in your ability to even see yourself clearly. You lost faith in people. You lost faith in your plan. And for a moment, you even lost faith in yourself. But that's exactly where the sacred work began. Because the delay didn't just test your patience, it tested your identity. You had to meet the version of you that was buried under expectations, trauma, fear, and old beliefs. The delay stripped away all the noise until only the real you remained. The warrior, the vessel, the chosen one. The delay forced you to stop clinging to people who were never meant to go with you. It revealed who clapped when you were rising and who disappeared when you stood still. It exposed the difference between those who love your light and those who love your glow only when it benefits them. You needed that clarity. You needed that heartbreak. You needed to be disappointed so deeply that you would never again lower your standards just to feel temporary belonging. The delay was protecting your standards, elevating your discernment, making sure you don't sabotage the promise when it finally arrives, because what's coming next can't be handled with fragile faith. What's coming will require clarity, strength, and deep spiritual authority. The kind that only comes from walking through fire and coming out unburned. Not because the fire wasn't hot, but because you were fortified in it. And now, you're different. You've loved and been left. You've trusted and been broken. You've waited and been disappointed. But still, you didn't collapse. You adapted. You kept going. You kept becoming. That's the real miracle. Not that things are about to get better, but that you didn't let the worst of it break your soul. You are now carrying something heavier than success. You're carrying substance, a frequency that cannot be faked, a spiritual posture that can't be copied. When you walk into the next season, people won't know the cost of your shine. They'll just feel the weight of it, the divine weight of someone who made it through a delay that was designed to bury them. But instead, it built you. So when the light finally finds you again, don't apologize for the glow. Don't downplay the victory. Don't minimize the power you now walk in. Let it radiate. Let it roar. Let it remind the world what's possible when someone refuses to give up, even in the dark. Because what's about to happen for you will not only redeem the delay, it will redefine what waiting looks like for everyone who watched you suffer in silence. And when they ask how you made it, look them in the eyes and say, "The delay was necessary, the pain was my teacher, and now I'm ready." This is the part where everything changes. You've walked through the fire. You've sat in the silence. You've cried through the questions. And now you're not just stepping into a new chapter. You're stepping into a whole new dimension. This is no longer about waiting. This is about walking. Forward, bold, free. The delay is no longer your story. It's your launch pad. It's the echo of who you used to be, not the limit of who you're becoming. The pain that once tried to paralyze you, now it powers your every step. The people who once overlooked you, they're now witnessing the rise of someone who didn't just survive the dark, they became light in it. This is what strategy looks like when it's finally revealed. This is what divine timing looks like when it finally catches up to everything your soul already knew. You didn't miss anything. What's meant for you has been magnetized to the version of you that only this delay could birth. Your blessing had a GPS. It was never lost. It was just waiting for the coordinates of your becoming to align. And now, they have. That's why things are going to happen fast now. Not because you're rushing, but because you're finally ready, fully, wholly, boldly. No fear, no hesitation, no clinging to anything that no longer matches the depth of your destiny. You've been emptied so you could overflow. You've been delayed so you could arrive fully equipped. You've been denied so you could enter the rooms that require more than talent. They require truth, because this is what your future demands. No more shrinking, no more second guessing, no more waiting for permission. You are not who you were, and you will never again lower your power just to keep the peace in places you were meant to rise above. You don't owe explanations to the past. You owe expansion to the future. This is your time now, not because you forced it, but because you flowed into it. The delay taught you rhythm. It taught you surrender. It taught you how to hear beyond noise, how to trust beyond proof, how to believe beyond what your eyes could see. And that's why you'll walk through the next door with grace. That's why you'll carry success without arrogance. That's why you'll rise without losing your soul. Because you've already lived the other side. You've lived the nights no one knew about. You've endured the battles no one saw. And now, you'll enjoy the victory no one can take. Let them wonder how you did it. Let them try to understand how someone who was overlooked for so long suddenly exploded with alignment and abundance. They won't understand that the explosion was actually quiet, that the preparation was actually sacred, that your success was never sudden. It was strategic. It was built in seasons when you had every reason to quit, but didn't. It was watered by prayers no one heard, but heaven recorded. It was written in your spirit before the world ever saw your face. And now the spotlight will fall, not because you chased it, but because you became it. This is your full circle moment. This is where everything starts making sense. The heartbreak, the delay, the confusion, the spiritual fatigue, it all begins to reveal its hidden blueprint. And you finally see what you were building wasn't just a better life. You were building a stronger soul. That's the gift of the delay, not just the success it brings, but the sacred version of you it leaves behind. So as you step forward from this moment, don't look back unless it's to honor your journey. The waiting season is over, the wilderness has ended, and the voice that once whispered, "Hold on," is now declaring, "Move now." No more waiting, no more wondering. The strategy has unfolded, the stage is set, the heavens have aligned, and the chosen one, you, have arrived. This was never just a delay, this was destiny in disguise, and now everything changes. Forever. There's one more truth you need to hear. The delay wasn't just about what was coming to you, it was about who you were going to become for others. You see, you were never just being delayed for your own blessing. You were being set apart so that others could witness what's possible through patience, faith, and divine alignment. You are becoming a living example. You are walking proof that what's delayed by time is still on time in God's realm. You were delayed because you are called to lead, not from a stage, not from a title, but from your scars, from your story, from your spiritual authority. That's why your life couldn't move fast like others. Because you weren't being built for speed, you were being forged for impact. Deep impact, the kind that shakes hearts, awakens minds, and shifts the atmosphere just by presence alone. You were not just sent here to make noise. You were sent here to make ripples, to shift families, generations, mindsets, realities. And for that, you had to walk a different road. Others saw the surface, but you saw the system behind the silence. You felt the sacred behind the suffering. You understood what most ignore. Waiting is not weakness. It's a weapon, and you used it, even when you didn't know it. Every tear you cried was watering your future. Every disappointment was chiseling your discernment. Every delay was calibrating your depth. And now, that depth is your crown. So, wear it. No more apologizing for how long it took. No more shrinking for those who didn't wait with you. No more explaining your process to people who only understand results. This delay was not just a pause, it was a consecration. You were being pulled out of the common flow to be realigned with a higher stream, a divine stream, the kind that doesn't operate on earthly clocks, the kind that doesn't rush to prove, it waits to reveal. And now, your reveal is here, but it's not loud, it's not flashy, it's precise, it's personal, it's powerful. Your energy will say what your voice doesn't have to. Your peace will silence every room that once made you anxious. Your presence will remind people that real power is quiet and holy. Because the truth is, they thought the delay was a detour. They didn't realize it was your ascent, an invisible staircase that only faith could climb. And while the world was watching others sprint to finish lines that didn't satisfy, you were being prepared for a race that matters. One that's not about competition, but about contribution. One that's not about speed, but about substance. One that's not about making it, but about changing it. So walk now, not with fear, but with fire. Not with doubt, but with divine knowing. The kind of knowing that comes when the delay teaches you what arrival truly means. You didn't just endure the delay, you mastered it, you danced in it, you evolved through it, and now you lead, not because you forced your way ahead, but because you surrendered long enough to let the light catch up to you. You are not behind. You are exactly where you're meant to be. And when others finally see the fullness of who you've become, they'll wonder how, they'll ask why, they'll search for the secret. But only you will know that the secret wasn't in moving faster, it was in standing still, strategically, until the divine whispered, "Now." There's still more unfolding within you, because the delay didn't just hold back a blessing, it rebuilt the vessel. The version of you that began this journey, gone, transformed, upgraded beyond recognition. And now, you no longer move like someone who's unsure. You walk with certainty, not because the path is easy, but because the vision is engraved into your spirit. The delay etched it, not in ink, but in experience. And nothing can erase that now. You no longer ask, "Will it happen?" You declare, "It's already mine. It's just aligning in time." Because your soul remembers what your pain made you forget. You were always meant to arrive exactly when the world needed you most. The delay. It was never about keeping you from the promise. It was about positioning you to be the answer someone else has been praying for. It was never just about your rise. It was about what your rise would unlock in others. You see, people will encounter you now and feel activated, not because you're perfect, but because you've been through it and came back glowing. That glow isn't artificial. It wasn't bought. It's sacred. It's earned. It's real. You glow now because the delay broke the parts of you that were never meant to carry your destiny anyway. It broke insecurity. It broke performance. It broke the need for approval. It broke fear disguised as planning. It broke every limitation passed down by people who never saw your divine blueprint. And when that broke, something wild and holy awakened. You stopped caring about being liked and started caring about being aligned. You stopped shrinking and started shining. You stopped chasing and started receiving. Because the real blessing wasn't waiting for you at the end of the delay. The real blessing was who you became inside it. Now, when doors open, they'll stay open, because the version of you walking through them isn't there to perform. You're there to own it, to honor it, to elevate it. There's no more pretending, no more settling, no more apologizing for evolving beyond the room you used to pray to be in. You've grown, you've healed, you've expanded, and now the delay has become your advantage. Where others rushed ahead and burned out, you rested and built roots. Where others forced outcomes, you waited for divine arrangement. Where others tried to be seen, you allowed yourself to be shaped. That's why what's coming next is so unshakable. It's not just a moment, it's a movement. And you're not just part of it, you are it. A walking revelation, a divine frequency, a chosen one in full bloom. Let them wonder how it took so long and still turned out so right. Let them ask how you went silent and came back louder than ever, without even speaking. Let them feel the shift in your energy and try to name it while you live it. This is what the delay birthed. Not just a comeback, a complete transformation. And now, your timeline is no longer delayed, it's detonated. Everything accelerates now. Everything aligns now. Everything ignites now. Because the universe was never saying no. It was simply saying, not yet, until you remember who you are. And now you do. So go, not timidly, not cautiously, but boldly, bravely, brilliantly, not because you're chasing destiny, but because you've finally become it. And one day, when you look back, you'll realize that the delay didn't break you, it built you. It wasn't punishment. It was preparation. You weren't being denied. You were being positioned. Because what's coming is not just on time. It's right on purpose. Chosen one, the delay was divine. And now, it's your time.